Galactic Standard Date. Year 11356. Day 96. Sol Standard Date 4th of the 8th, 3267. Bastila slowly descended into the city as a horde of soldier wasps started to buzz around in the air around him. They were shouting questions at him such as, "Where is the Queen? How did you escape the palace guards? What are you doing soiling our air, you xenofilth?" With a deep sigh, Basilis opened his closed fist to reveal the regal and ornate wings that had previously been attached to the Queen. "Your Queen is dead, killed by those she has stood upon and killed without a second thought. You will be next if you do not surrender right now." The wasps fell into silence at the sight of the wings. At his proclamation, the soldiers flew into a frenzy. They practically foamed at the mouth as they opened fire on him. The bullets, of course, simply bounced off of him. He shook his head in disappointment before giving his sword a casual flick in their direction. Flames exploded from the sword and engulfed the small swarm of soldier wasps in just over a second. They burned so quickly that there weren't even any cries of anguish. They just died outright. Basilis gathered his energies together in his sword, then slowly brought the blade up to point at the sky. A lance of pale green energy shot out towards the sky, before seemingly hitting a ceiling. The energies then spread out from the point of impact and slowly began to form a dome around the city. The residents who had noticed tried to fly out of the city before whatever was going on affected them. Unfortunately, the dome had finished faster than any could escape. Those who tried to fly through it were simply turned to dust. Anything that touched the wall was atomized. Thousands gathered up at the walls as they started throwing various belongings at it in the vain hope that they could do anything to the wall. Basilis ignored their attempts and channeled energy into his voice so that the whole city could hear him. He took a deep breath and spoke words he had never thought he'd say. "I am the god of death, Basilis. Bring your slaves to me now. If you do not comply with my demands, only hell will await you. If you manage to bring me every single servant and slave, I will grant you a boon." Basilis got to himself. "Ugh, I feel like I stepped in shit. Hate acting like that." After a few minutes, thousands upon thousands of wasps came before him, after following the sound of his voice and the towering beam of energy. Thousands of rich, angry, and utterly ridiculous 3-foot-tall wasps. The first one that made it to him started screaming obscenities about him and telling him to let him out this instant, and he just Thanos snapped the dude out of existence. The hundreds behind him who were going to complain suddenly froze like a deer in the headlights. Basilis took that as his cue. "This is not a negotiation. This isn't some hostage ransom. This is simply a cleanup. Everyone who owns a servant or slave, step forward. If you do not step forward now, I will find out later regardless, and you will be punished severely." With that proclamation, several hundred rushed forward and stood before him warily. He felt for life signs elsewhere and found that there were very few slaves actually left behind. He pointed towards the crowd and said, "Now, for your boon. Bring your servants forward. I will allow you to apologize to them before they decide your fate." The gathered rich were an absolute fit. In between the cacophony of sound, he could hear shit like, "I will never supplicate to this wingless vermin." Or even better, "I won't apologize for my actions to an inferior being even if it kills me." Basilis only saw a few in the gathered masses who had actually seemed to accept that as their fate. He made a mental note of where those ones were and marked them as safe. He gathered the energies around him and sent them snaking through the gathered crowd of angry wasps. The energies flowed around those who had been yelling at him, and a silence fell across the crowd as they realized their mistake. "Mob mentality is a bitch. Shouldn't have gotten pulled into yelling at a literal angry god by some dumb twat. Here's your punishment." He snapped his fingers, and small flames erupted behind each of the wasps that had been yelling at him, disintegrating their wings. Basilis smiled as he watched the horror slowly creep across their faces. "Now you are wingless, just like those that you called vermin. Now you shouldn't have any problems apologizing to them, right?" The crowd erupted in anguished cries and pleas for help. One of the wasps who spit at him crawled over, tears and snot running down his face. "Please, Almighty One, don't take away my wings. I will pay you. I will give you more gold than you can imagine. Just give me my wings back." Basilis sighed and opened the fist that held the Queen's wings. He held them out before the crowd and narrowed his eyes. "If she couldn't buy me, what chance do you think you have? Do as I told you. That is your only option. Apologize to your servants, or don't. I no longer care. You have 30 seconds to make your peace with them, before they decide your fate. Also, no bribery or threats. Those will result in the same torture I gave your queen before she was torn apart and eaten by her servants." The crowd froze as an icy chill descended. That last sentence had quelled whatever rebellious thoughts they had before. Most of them quickly began trying to beg their servants to save their lives. Few had simply closed their eyes and sat down. With them now distracted, Basilisk took the time to form condensed tendrils of veil that he snaked out towards the life signs that had been left behind.